If you've ever suffered from any type of depression, anxiety, complex PTSD, just confusion in general, definitely watch this video. It's for you. And if you consider yourself educated in any of those fields, it's especially for you. Especially for you. Because the truth of the situation is you're the ones who failed me. My faith component is what's keeping me going. However, it's exhausting. And having to do what I do now, there's an also, if you haven't been able to tell from these videos, an underlining message. I'm quite literally sitting in front of the high school that I went to for 1 year. Its name is Resurrection. And the house that I first got my memories back. So I had no memories before February of 2020. My trauma comes back in a reaction, not a memory. And you lose your body and your brain are disconnected. That is actually what I understand and happened to me. The blessing, though, is being able to get away from people that are in your head. How do you cut that out of you? So this is the circumstances and the reality for people who are kind of stuck in their circumstances. So on one side, for those of you that are suffering and confused and in a cycle, I am still, but I understand it's due to injustice. So also, if you're watching this video and you have any connection in any ways to any force, a type of law enforcement, or I'm going to go any possible ability, you need to be starting to investigate. Put it that way. Because if you were to start to investigate, you would find out I've never been lying about any of my abuse. So why has the person who's only ever been abused, I've been the actual victim, but I have not adapted victim mentality. But I need justice. And I'm really realizing that's the reason I'm so ill, physically and mentally. And that's where I'm wearing down. Because if you were also to do further investigation, you would find out that I did try to kill myself one time in my life, and I never gave anyone a warning. This is me trying to give a warning that I am not okay. But do not dare, I dare you, do not call any type of services. Why? Well, that's the point. Do some more research and you'll find out the damage they did. So I'm not against help, but I am in fear of who's on whose side. And that's where, if you were to look at the rest of the page, hint, if you're first in watching this, look at the rest of the page, you'll see, multiple personalities, entertainment and education. My real coping mechanisms, and my real coping mechanisms when I was in the house that I was in, would be, I'm being raped and abused. It's a triggering video, for the record, and it's to those of you who have suffered, but a triggering video also those who haven't done enough. How that works, so that people trying to figure out or study this, and I say this, the people that believe, if you believe you're educated, you need to do more. The brain and the body disconnect. And when does that come back? Well, those are the things we don't seem to have control over. At least I didn't. And I've always believed in something bigger than myself. And I'm not going to tell people what to believe, but I have always followed a God. However, and that's the irony, this is a Catholic high school. I was brought up strict Catholic, but you have to go past that. And that's where I say what happened. What I could see and where my head was at and where my body was at. I lost the abilities in my body. Well, fear, you're yelling, you're screaming. I was, but at the people around me, because those energies around me and the things they were doing and saying, they were in the wrong. And they couldn't handle that. It's like I changed. All of a sudden, I'm a completely different person. Some would even argue, if they were to see how different I was, would look, oh, wow. If you were to watch, there is police cameras. They were on their chat. You would go, is that girl demonically possessed? No, she's a very upset, angry girl who's not okay, and that's trauma where her brain was at. I had to understand that. That's why it's like, wait a minute, now I look normal. I'm not mentally ill. Because I have makeup on, because I'm able to speak clear, etc. Well, that's due to my own programs. Watching my videos to have an understanding of what was done to me, because I really did not have a memory of before 2020. So the issues that a lot of people face as well with that is who's surrounding you. It's their fears, their traumas, their thing, etc. are going to be put on you. So in a circumstance like mine, I was lucky that I had options to leave, at least. So I have a lifetime of abuse in different areas, different places. And that's why you don't even recognize it. So I didn't know. So you're being abused. I would sleep in alleyways at times and go to school, and I'm everybody's friend or trying to be. That's like playing two different roles, a different character. And you don't even realize it. It's a coping mechanism. Because the brain cannot cope with the traumas that it's dealing with. So when, though, does that come out if you go to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing? Well, in other circumstances and other people, so some people, okay, go to a different family, go to a different thing. Well, now you're dealing with whatever the next set of circumstances are. How many layers before you just snap? When do you get out of it? We want to, right, evolve and move past the things that when you're in trauma, you're uncomfortable. We don't want to sit with that. Well, that's where some people turn to some sort of addiction. Everybody has an addiction. Ironically, even if you think you're healthy and well, it's the degree of that. Well, if you lost the base of that, why? Because when you're uncomfortable, you turn toward something else. Is it a healthy, or when does it, or not? So, and then when is it something that's just completely obsessive? So myself, a lot of it going back to my weight or my appearance or my value, well, that's triggered and rooted in sexual trauma, which I understand, but also having an anorexic mother, blah, 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 blah. So, and then my career and that's like, I was bullied for my appearance, ironically here, because I was never a mean girl. I was bullied by mean girls. And that's why I'm so empathetic. I've had different looks in different ways, is because I don't see people that way. People are people to me. I see soul, but that's the irony. It's like, well, who's your enemies make you better? My enemies, I was never friends with these people. They just girls that picked on me, made fun of me for my appearance, being friends with so-and-so, whatever, stories, who beat me up. Well, they're making fun of me is what pushed me to want to become a fitness model. So it elevated me in my career. Betrayal is different. Betrayal is the people that are close to you that do things that you don't see. And that's where, how can you easily be fooled? Well, if I grew up with a monster and around a monster, I'm interested because I'm learning my own life now. That's where we are stuck in trauma. So you have to recognize we're stuck in the circle. I do. But I also understand, I have to understand it enough to get out of it. Okay, but what help? At what time, like, are you pulling like into different directions? And I say the thoughts of suicide that run through my mind is the continued support for the wrong things, witnessing that, the exhaustion from that, doing this for so many years, the extreme loneliness. But again, I'd rather be alone than around the wrong people, because that is damaging. The people, like, their version of love or what they believe is best for me, the price that I've had to pay for that. That's not even like that. So it's like, what gives? But you have to first learn. That's the mess, your own boundaries. So people that grew up on love versus those who grew up on survival would need to understand. Just not if you're reading a textbook and you don't understand that side of it, it's a protective mechanism. A way to second, right? How close can you let people? But I can play the role in society very well. That's why I don't fit into the box. Oh, I could look a certain way, but that's the game of what personality. Okay, so then you say, who cares? If you're looking at it, you don't know me. So you might think. And this is where it gets interesting, because if you were to do some further investigation, then that would be the challenge. What resources people have available to them. So if you're not okay right now and you're watching these videos, I absolutely welcome you to continue to watch our soul connections. You will be triggered. That's part of the thing. But how does that relate to your life? And then you have to do the work yourself to want to save your own life. And that's how we're connected. However, the next part, you're a person you're watching, you're just throwing hate. Well, great. You continue to do that. You'll just be proven later stupid. Ha, ha, ha. Because I'm challenging the people in that type of privilege. What resources do you have to dig further into this story? Because when you get to the base of the truth of what I've really gone through, and the fact that I'm a real victim who doesn't play victim, who's absolutely used her privilege for something. Because that's the thing, what saved my life when my first memories coming back, being raped in that house, even though I now remember before that house there was other circumstances, but for the purposes of what I remembered at that time, that came back to trigger my memories. The memories of that is the fact that what always kept me in perspective is gratitude. I was always comparing myself to people who had it worse, so that I wouldn't complain. Shut up, don't complain, you're not allowed. So it's not complaining. Sharing your story to empower and educate versus I never put my stuff on other people. No. And if you knew me in real life, you'd know that to be true as well. So if the people that need to throw hate at me continuously, or messages or things, it just proves further their attacks. That helps me prove to myself, even the psychology of the type of people I was surrounding myself with. Why am I attracting abuse? So you would need to ask yourself the same thing. Okay, well, at every expense, you would need to get away from those people. So you'd have to ask yourself, what are you taking from those people? And the difficulty is that a lot of the times, that's why I was going, people don't recognize that because they can't get away. They were molested, abused, whatever, and it's in the family, and it's just kind of swept under the rug. You feel uncomfortable, you don't know, and these people turn to whatever different types of addictions that are more serious, and you can't figure that out, and you think there's something wrong with you. Obviously, your own guilt, though, you have to take responsibility for anything you've done, and that's owning up, and that's kind of the cycle. So myself included, I'm a human, I make mistakes. Okay, that's penance. You have to do something. Penance isn't just saying some prayers and then hoping it goes away, if that's the case, or completely ignoring it, moving on, and not recognizing your role in what you've done. Those are dangerous people. I've never done that. I always self-analyze, but I had to finally see. So if you've been a helper, and you believe you're just help, the irony of that is you actually have to stop for a second, really. Otherwise, you cannot pour from an empty cup. You're drowning. You might need to stop helping everybody else and first help yourself and understand you are a worthwhile person, so you can reset your boundaries, and then ironically you help at a higher level. And that's what I'm doing. So that's where I said I will give my life for it. But I don't want to actually die. I want to live. But the reason I can't do that properly is, again, do some further investigations. Because there is something else going on. And there has been. And if you really had the resources, you'd start to learn it has something to do with your own life. We are connected somehow, some way. So that's why it's now your personal development trivia challenge. Entertainment and education.